Thanks, Scott. I wonder if I can actually get the term guru on my business card. Past compliance. Well, I appreciate you all coming. I think the program that I put together for you guys is great. I've got a boatload of content to go through, so I will go ahead and dive right in. So the question I want you to keep in the back of your minds today, move this one forward. It's not forward. There we go. Do I need to like raise this above the heads in the back, or is this? So, I want you to think about what we do today that's impervious to being digitalized, marginalized, outsourced, or offshore. Think about those elements as we move through this kind of conversation that we're going to have. And this challenge is obviously not unique to our industry. I'll give you a real life example here. So if I worked, back in the mid 1800s, so talking about technology, what was the most powerful, pervasive industry that at one time in the mid 1800s comprised over 70% of the value of the S&P? Railroads, the railroad industry. So, given how powerful that industry is today, how many of you follow the railroad industry, have a significant sleeve of business in the railroad stocks, and it's a major part of your wealth management strategy? So what happened to this extraordinarily powerful and pervasive industry? The context under which they operated was too narrow. If you saw a railroad person back in the mid-1800s and said, hey, what do? They'd say, I'm a railroad guy. You see that hat that says S&P or whatever? I'm a railroad guy. That's how they define themselves. What industry were they actually in? Transportation industry. Think of that simple but profound paradigm shift in how you define what it is you do. As a railroad person, you have a very narrow perspective of your market and your competition. As a transportation entity, it widens your scope. It gives you what I like to call peripheral vision. You start to look at your landscape, your competitive landscape, in a fundamentally different way. And as that person, see if we can get the next slide to come forward. Yes. So as a transportation company, they would have possibly seen, when Henry Ford was beginning down his journey, not just an interesting model of assembly lines or an efficient way to build, linear product, which they could maybe incorporate into their railroad cars. They would see that Ford as a potential threat, because it was moving people that in the future might move goods from point A to point B. They might have read about the Wright brothers and said, that's kind of fascinating. Man can finally fly. But competitive threat as a railroad person, not quite. But maybe as a transportation company, possible. So those are what I call cultural blind spots. We grow up in a particular culture, whether this is a firm culture, an industry culture, a religious culture, a family culture, branches have cultures, to the point where when you live in a culture for an extended period of time, it becomes invisible to you. It becomes like water is to fish. If there's a fish, it's wet. No, it's always been wet. That's the environment, that's the cultural framework that it comes from. You have to begin thinking of yourself in a broader context and start thinking about where these threats come from. And start thinking about your practice as a way to insulate yourself from those threats, and that's what we're going to talk about today. Okay, so let's go to this slide, because this is actually okay. Talk about that cultural framework. If you define yourself, and more importantly, if your clients see you as their investment advisor, that's how they define you. So if somebody comes to one of your clients and said, what does Paul do for you? And they said something like, well, he manages my assets. He's my investment advisor. If that's how you're perceived, it is like being perceived through a microscope. They are going to be following and tracking on almost a molecular level your performance as their investment advisor. That is a very harsh lens, because your clients will tend to, if that's how they see you, always judge your performance against the highest performing index at any given point in time. We've all experienced it. Wealth management, broadening that perspective, broadening how people perceive you, is a much more forgiving lens. Wealth management says portfolio management is a part, but by no means the whole of what you do. And so with that framework actually implemented, you have a much greater opportunity to weather the buffetings the market's going to always put us through because of the expanded value you bring to the client. This phrase, I think, captures the essence of how we need to shift our practice. Rather than focusing on performance, which is the disease, we focus on the patient. Treat the disease, you win, you lose. Performance, you win, you lose. Good years, bad years. Good quarters, bad quarters. Focus on the patient. Focus on the client. Focus on their journey. Focus on their challenges. Help them with context. Help them with dealing with, the emotional buffeting they're going to receive when the markets go crazy. Become that person, and you'll win no matter what the outcome. Here's what it can look like. So I want you to picture your ideal prospect. You get a referral to your ideal prospect. You get out there, you get your yellow pad out, and you start gathering information. You find the following. They have a comprehensive financial plan completed by their current advisor 10 years ago, updated 9 months ago. All their assets are in a living trust to facilitate transfer. They have a $12 million allocation to fulfill that plan. Their advisors utilize top-tier portfolio managers to construct a style class and geographically neutral stock portfolio. They have an irrevocable trust with a $15 million second dividend policy to liquefy the estate upon the death of the principal. They utilize their advisor's website as their primary financial interface. They've established a pre-refunded buy-sell agreement to make sure that the business that the client owns transcends the death or disability of any of the partners. They have a rotating line of credit, equipment leasing program, and a home mortgage with their advisory team. Their advisory team referred them to a specialist in the 401k and deferred comp to make sure they can attract and retain the best people for their particular business. They receive a quarterly newsletter designed to provide context, insight, not just advice. Attend quarterly seminar series that speak to them both as a client and a business professional. And the fourth quarter series becomes an annual recognition event where you speak to them as human beings with human challenges, hopefully with a speaker that resonates on a much more profound level than what we usually do. So that's what you find when you go visit this ideal prospect. I have 2 questions for you. Question number 1, what's your access point to this person? And you'll notice I answered it for you. The $1 million question. Are your clients as well insulated from the competition as this prospect is insulated from you? That's the $1 million question. We play great offense in our industry, but we play terrible defense. We don't shut down access. So I built this particular toolkit. By the way, everything I've built over at the Oppenheimer Funds, I built, because I used to hate hearing speakers give you great concepts with no roadmap, with no tool, with no structure. Basically, they give you a blank piece of paper and say, I just gave you some good ideas, go build that. I give you actual content for everything I talk about, because I found that FAs make really bad writers, but really great editors. So I give you something to edit, to make your own, and you don't have to start with a blank piece of paper. The first thing that will address this is the client engagement toolkit. This toolkit, step 1 in this toolkit is to capture information and insights. Almost all of us, and probably everyone in this room, uses some kind of a information gathering tool to begin to establish some plan of attack. And that's very important. What most of those plans, if not all of those plans, don't capture is the why behind the what. Knowing where the client has all their assets doesn't tell me anywhere near as much as I need to know to help that client on their journey. And that's the deficiency of most of these linear rate financial plans. So I've created this to be a complement to whatever tool you're currently using. So in this tool, the goal is to create a level of intimacy with your best clients that's bulletproof. Because an intimate relationship, a relationship where you interact almost as really close friends, is the kind of relationship that will weather many storms. So this may be a very high bar, but this would be the goal.
Gentlemen, pick your category. Here's the pet peeves. What is Monica's biggest pet peeve?
Animals just as humans.
That's correct. Ladies?
Same category.
According to Chandler, what phenomenon scares the bejesus out of him?
Michael Flatley, Lord of the Dance.
That is correct.
The Irish jig guy? Some lights flail about as if independent from his body.
Monica and I had a grandmother who died. Name that grandmother.
Althea! Althea! What are you doing? I took a shot. You're shooting with Althea?
Althea is correct.
I'm shooting!
Every week, the TV guide comes to Chandler and Joey's apartment. What name appears on the address label?
Chandler gets it! It's Chandler Bing! No!
I'm afraid the TV guide comes to Chandler Ball.
Actually, it's Miss Chandler Ball.
So, the higher you set that bar of insight and knowledge about the client, the more it builds relationship and the more it builds intimacy. So, let's take a look at what we did here. The first page in this is really just kind of the step that allows you to connect with somebody on a more of an emotional level. For example, if you've got a client who's a massive New York Yankees fan, you should have probably been calling them this morning. That little simple call will forge those kind of almost invisible bonds because they understand you understand. So I give you the kinds of things you might want to know, just tactically, about any really high-level client. Moving beyond kind of the fun stuff here, we go to the deeper stuff. And I give you about 3 or 4 sections here. This one is, if they're a business or professional of any type, what kind of questions do you need to ask them to gain the kinds of insights you need to both understand them and ultimately maybe even help them with some of their business challenges? Because you don't realize a lot of the things that you guys grapple with as practitioners are the same challenges that other industries grapple with within their space. And if you pick the lock in your practice, oftentimes you can help them do the same. How they make their investment decisions. What's their process? How much, how they want to be contacted? What's that whole model look like? How should it look for them? What are their values and priorities? When you're managing wealth, you're managing not just a massive degree of assets, but you're managing their core values as they manifest themselves through their wealth. You have to understand at a very deep level who and what these people are and why they're doing what they're doing, so you can help guide their wealth in the direction that's going to be most fulfilling to them. Again, you start doing that kind of work, performance becomes less and less an issue. The bar's not that high. Was there a relationship of expectations? As you start to bring in, not necessarily millennials, but some of the younger generation, how do you want to be communicated with? And you know it's going to be some combination of digital and personal. Step 2 is a wealth management implementation checklist. This is the most popular piece I've designed yet for our team. Too often, we position ourselves as wealth managers. The assets come in, we deploy the assets, and then we somehow forget to implement the rest of that implicit promise as a wealth advisor. again, kind of back to that slide where have you done all the things necessary to not only fulfill what your client needs, but to lock up the competition. So what I've done is I've given you 2 tools. Same information on each tool. The vertical version takes everything you might ever need to do with a prospect all the way through to a fully integrated client. And I've got a horizontal version of that where you can take a look at your entire practice. All the things you might ever need to do, all the clients over here, and you simply look for those gaps. So, for example, this is the vertical version. So first, in your overview and discovery meeting, these are the things that I recommend you get done. And where I've got little red marks are things that we've provided for you to help you with that particular part of the overview and discovery meeting. Wealth management plan, review and strategy, review the client's primary objectives, review net worth statements. So it's just literally all the stuff you want to do at these various stages of the relationship. You go into the portfolio management implementation guide. One of the things I provide for you, which is in your packet when you head out, is the philosophical and historical context to keep them buckled in. How many of you guys have seen and or used the J.P. Morgan chart book? You're just kidding me. 2? Okay, so that's like everybody. You at least know what it is. The problem with the J.P. Morgan chart book, it's a great book. It's all tactical. What should I do today, now, given marketing conditions or whatever? The problem with that concept is it assumes the client isn't curled up in the fetal position, sucking their thumb because they watched the news last night. So I built a book I wish I had when I was in practice, which will help you provide the broad historical and philosophical context to keep clients buckled into your overall strategy as they get buffeted by the news and the markets. It's about a 110-page book, and there's a digital version that's like 160 pages. And you can literally customize it for each client depending on what you want to discuss with them. What's your onboarding experience? How do you move into the transition management and liability structure? How do you handle your debt management? And that's the checklist. And then I give you the vertical version of that, or the horizontal version, so you can put your clients here, go across, and look where you have consistent gaps and start batch processing this for your clients. How do you articulate this model to your clients? So this is very important. It's, when someone says, what do you do, what do you say? And more importantly, is what you say distinctively different, and does it resonate with your clientele? And almost as important, does your team sing from the same hymn? As each individual team member, tell them I'm a prospective client, tell me what you do. Very important. We tend to be kind of left brain in our industry, and we tend to go, well, I'm the CFO, your overall financial, blah, blah, blah. It can sound fine, but it might sound like everybody else, and it may not resonate with the client on an emotional level. So my running commentary on our industry is we're a left-brain industry talking to right-brain clients. So a lot of what I give you in framing brings the two together. So for example, one of the things I recommend, and this is again in our app on the iPad, how do you articulate this model? When I sit down with somebody, I say, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, let me explain kind of what we do at Police Incorporated. We answer the 2 fundamental questions that everyone has of our industry. So basically, I've built an entire practice around 2 questions that you have to have answered if you're going to sleep tonight. Question number 1, will I make it? Will I make it? And what I've found, can I back this up? How? Like that. Where's my picture for will I make it? I hate your technology. But the bottom line is, will I make it? Which is, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, the vast majority of people I've spoken to in my career haven't even defined it in their lives. So they don't really understand whether in fact they're going to make it to where it is they think they're trying to go. So the first thing our team does is we sit down with you and go through a deep discovery meeting. In the discovery meeting, We look at everything you're trying to accomplish with a high degree of specificity. We then layer on top of that everything you're doing from a financial perspective and tell you definitively whether in fact what you hope happens has a chance to occur. If the answer is yes, we're going to patch on the back and say, congratulations, you're well on your way. If there's a shortfall, we're going to surface that challenge and give you rational solutions to get yourself back on track. Once we've answered question number one, we're going to move to question number two. Question number two asks, do I have any financial blind spots? Is there anything I've overlooked that could do myself, my family, or my business harm? Because there's nothing sadder in life, Mrs. Jones, than marching off towards all your dreams, goals, and aspirations, only to get blindsided by something you didn't anticipate. So our team does a 360-degree look at you from a financial perspective, looking for any risk exposure you haven't uncovered. Once again, if we find an issue, we're going to surface it and give you rational solutions to close that risk exposure. So at the end of this journey, you will have addressed the two most fundamental and frankly profound questions you've ever had of me or my industry. Will I make it? And do I have any financial blind spots? So that framework appeals to the left brain because there's structure there. But it more importantly appeals to the right brain or the heart because it resonates with people. Because if you think of your own situation over the last 2 years, those are the two questions that kept you up at night, if you were ever kept up at night. So then the question might be, okay, Paul, that sounds great. How do you do that? What's my experience going to be like? And I say the following. And before I do it, one quick caveat for you all in the room. Avoid industry speak. Okay? You should banish from your lexicon alpha, beta, efficient frontier, and a lot of our little favorite phrases when you get in front of a client. Because if you start doing that in front of a client, they're probably going to respond a little bit like Opie here.
Now look here, Opie, you can't give a little bitty piddling amount like 3 cents to a word that calls like the underprivileged children's drive. I was reading here just the other day where there's somewhere like 400 needy boys in this county alone, or 1.5 boys per square mile.
There is?
It sure is.
I never seen one, Paul.
Never seen one more.
A half boy.
Well, it's not really a half a boy, it's a ratio.
Horatio who?
Not whole ratio, a ratio. It's mathematics, arithmetic. Look now, Opie, just forget that part of it. Forget the part about the half boy.
It's pretty hard to forget a thing like that, Paul. Poor Horatio.
All right, so let's not fall into that trap. So, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, let me explain the process you're going to go through. And we basically torn a page from our favorite professional model, which is your family doctor. If you have a really good family doctor, you go through a 3-step process. Step 1 of the process is you go through a deep diagnostic. In the diagnosis phase, they focus on 3 areas: your past medical history, your current symptoms, and if you're really good, your future objectives for your long-term well-being. You then take all that data, all that content, all that insight, and come back with an organized prognosis. And then, and only then, will that physician come back with a targeted treatment regimen designed to take you on your unique medical journey. And by the way, that's a virtuous cycle. Whenever you meet with your physician, you're going to go through some semblance of that. We take that same 3-step architectural framework and we simply lay it into our industry and our practice. Step 1 in our practice is deep discovery. In the discovery phase, we're going to focus on 3 areas: your past financial history, your current financial structure, and your future financial objectives for your long-term well-being. We're then going to take all that data, all that content, all those insights, and come back with a written plan of attack. And then, and only then, will we come back with targeted recommendations designed to take you and your family on their own unique financial journey. And my close at that point was always the same. Does that make sense as a methodology? Well, of course it does. And so it prepares them for the journey that you're about to undertake. So let's talk now. That was kind of the wealth management structure. And if you think about your wealth management architecture and your client service model, it should look somewhat like an assembly line. A follows B, follows C, follows D. So they go through the entire wealth management structure, fully implemented, and then they start to spill into your client service structure. And it should be very predictable and very easy to monitor. So what I try to do is capture an example of our industry's client service model, which I like to define as treating everyone relatively equally poorly.
Eggs, couple of eggs, and eggs, couple of eggs. I fold them lightly with sausage. Cafe, no, cheeseburger. I don't want a cheeseburger. Too early for a cheeseburger. You want a cheeseburger? Look, cheeseburger.
I know with that clip I'm showing my age. So let's talk about constructing something that actually resonates with your highest level clients. So the way I look at this is oftentimes when I say, tell me about your segmentation process, and I'll hear things like, well, we segment based on assets, or we segment based on production or gross, or we segment based on some combination of those two. I can't tell you the degree of difficulty of your practice if I don't know the qualitative elements that you monitor within a clientele. Quantitative is important, qualitative is equally important. So I give you kind of five concepts here that I recommend you kind of go through. And the scoring is 1 is poor, 2 is average, 3 is great. So if you look at that, current revenue, very important. What about potential revenue? I think that's of equal importance, especially if you're going to be around for the next 10, 15, 20 years. You know, I've got a son-in-law who just finished his second year of ENT surgical residency. When he steps out of this place in 3 years, the average income for ENT surgery is somewhere around $350 to $450. So if you had him as a client, or you had him find me as a potential client, what would his ranking be on current revenue? I mean, if you could go below a 1, you probably would. But what about potential income? That'd be like a fact, so we can really reasonably create a service model around your clientele. What about center of influence? Do they give you consistent, high-quality introductions or referrals? If they give you consistent, high-quality referrals, it's 3. If they give you one of those 2, consistent but not that great, or occasional high-quality, that's a 2. If they give you neither, it's a 1. Time consumption. The time consumption and relationship quality, you have to bring your staff into this conversation. Because you might look at somebody and go, oh, yeah, Mrs. Jones, she's great. She causes me no headaches. And you ask your staff's like, Mrs. Jones, do you see these gray hairs? Mrs. Jones. Okay? And just so you know, the staff has pooled their bonuses this year, and we've hired a hitman to kill Mrs. Jones. You have to get your staff involved in these kind of qualitative rankings. Because if you've got a really good staff, they will firewall you against some of the insanity that might exist in your book, and you will be oblivious. So be sure to involve the staff as you're going through this ranking process. Then it's pretty simple math. Add across, by the way, as you can probably tell, highest rating is a 15, lowest is a 5. Most people fall in between. Add across, add down, divide by the number of clients, you get a fascinating piece of information. You get an average bookstore. So you get an idea of the overall quality and degree of difficulty, as well as productivity of your practice. So I'll show you how important this can be. Given just what you've learned in the last 5 minutes. I have 2 books for sale. 2 businesses for sale. I'm going to tell you 2 things about the books, the businesses. First thing I'm going to tell you, they're both $1 million in gross revenue. I'm going to tell you one other piece of information. The average book score on the first one is a 7. The average book score on the second one is a 12. Knowing just that, both being charged the same amount, that's how we tend to do it in our industry, is generating $1 million, here's the price. You have a choice between the 2, how much you want the 7? You want the 7. Why?
It has potential.
It has potential to drive you into an early grave.
Maybe they get along with the other people. Maybe they get along with me.
That's a good avant-garde thought process. It happens to be completely wrong, but that's thanks for sharing. Because if you look at those variables, you have people that low maintenance, high productivity, tend to refer, tend to stay out of your way, and that business I can grow exponentially time to engagement versus one that doesn't give me referrals, doesn't give me introductions, is low productivity, doesn't have any future revenue stream. I mean, I'll take that one, you take this one, we'll compare this in 5 years. And then assuming you're still alive. So yeah, you want to go with, because remember all the variables it's measuring. It's measuring not only productivity today, future productivity tomorrow, but all those other variables. Then you want to stratify your clients. So once you do this, now you've got a segmentation stratification model that actually makes sense. So what, out of that criteria, where do you draw the line for your platinum, gold, silver? Now we all tend to do this, either platinum, gold, silver, ABC, some form of that. There's a big chunk of our practice that we tend to kind of glom into the silver or C-based level of your stratification. I actually carve it out separately. So you got platinum, gold, silver, and the 4th category I classify as driftwood. These are clients that you've had around for whatever reason that have far outlived their usefulness to you in your practice. And what they do is they clog up your servicing capability, your administrative capability. They are a drain on your team. And you keep them around. Why? Because we always have. When I did a lot of consulting, I would say, why do you do that? And there'd be long pauses often, and it'd be like, well, wait, I don't know what's going on. But that's not the answer we're looking for. Okay? So you need to take a look at those clients that no longer fit your practice. This is no denigration of a client. This is saying, if you aren't outgrowing your clients at some point, you're not growing. You're just not. And so what you want to do is you want to make sure all of your clients get serviced. All of your clients get the kind of attention they deserve, but it may not be your team to deliver it. You know, think of it this way. Think of the most high-powered attorney in New York City. Are they working with the same type of client they did right out of law school? No. Somebody comes in, it's not an appropriate fit, but doesn't need that level of high-powered legal advice. That client is referred to someone who came right out of law school or one of the junior partners to take care of their needs. You don't need, it's like, you know, you are like a bazooka. You don't need to take a bazooka on a rabbit hunt. You should be playing to where very few people can play at the upper echelons of these clients that have very complex challenges. They need your intellect and resources to fix those. Then, once you've kind of right-sized the business and segmented both qualitative and quantitative, we can begin to stratify our service levels. Because you've now got some capacity to drive up the level of service that these clients are receiving. So, again, I look at it this way. There's really 3 areas that service comes into play. What's the cost of the service, how specific is it, and what's the time commitment? So, The two that I have up there are self-explanatory. Let's talk specificity. Silver clients get generic service, gold clients get custom service, and platinum clients get personalized service. That's how you stratify a service structure. So I'll give you an example. I'll talk about a highly personalized level of service. Let's say that myself, Paul Blees, was one of your top platinum clients. First question I would ask you, would you know about me that my youngest son David is a huge New York Yankees fan? My middle son is marketing director with Uber and is a huge nostalgic comic book movie trivia geek. And then my daughter is mean. She's mean and scripted. And that my wife volunteers for everything that's not bolted down in some of those areas you'd explore. And myself, I'm a huge James Bond fan. And if you have to ask which James Bond, you're not a big James Bond fan, because there's only one James Bond. And I still think he could pull it off. He's almost 90, but give him a nice walker and he's off to the races. Would you know that about myself and my family? Because, by the way, if you really want to resonate with one of your top clients, you have two ways to do it. You can either do something for them that is highly personal and meaningful, or even more important, do something for someone they care deeply about that is highly personal and meaningful. That's how you break through the white noise surrounding the world of these clients. So knowing that about our family, let's say and here's where you set the system. It's pretty simple. You capture that on the personal information and insights, you embed it into your CRM. Okay? I give you a great referral. You want to thank me for that introduction. Your system is, then systems are the key. What's your repeatable system? So your system is, who's in the queue for Paul's family? It's little David. Okay? And what is David's, what are his hot likes? New York Yankees. Favorite player? Derek Jeter. This is back in the day. What would you do? Well, you might say, okay, I'm going to send a little, Derek Jeter signed baseball or whatever to David. A little nut. So let's play this through. So David, back when he was back here, he was a young kid, goes out to play with his buddies. He opens the door on Saturday morning, and there's a box with his name on it. So he stops, opens the box, pulls it open, pulls out a ball, pulls out a card, looks at the ball, sees Derek Jeter's signature, passes out, pulled on the porch. I come out a few minutes later looking for David. There he is, prostrate on the ground. I'm like, hey, what are you doing? He kind of holds up the ball, holds up the card. I look at the ball, I look at the card says, Dear David, tell your parents thanks for the great introduction to Mr. and Mrs. XYZ. Fortunately, the Yankees delivered for Bear. Great game last night. Go to town. See you in the World Series. I leave the ball, I read that card. There's a technical word for what I say. What's the technical expression? Wow. Wow. What do you do proactively and consistently for your best clients that elicits a wow, other than extricate themselves from a horrific situation? Okay? What do you do? So now let's play that forward. I walk in my office on Monday. When you walk into your offices on Monday and you see your friends and colleagues, what does everybody say to each other? How was your weekend? That's cultural framework. We do it across the country. How was your weekend? So I get that from my friends and colleagues. I'm like, it was a great weekend. Other than little David had a mild stroke. We were great. And they're like, what? Little David had a, I'm a little hyper-realistic. My financial advisory team, sent him a Derek Jeter signed baseball. Made his weekend. He slept with it under his pillow. He had a cramp in his neck, for 2 days. But it was a wonderful weekend. They're like, wait a minute, roll the tape back, Paul. Your financial advisory team hold that thought. Sent little David, Derek Jeter signed baseball. I didn't realize David was a big investor. Are you really just doing this shop for fun and he's really the power behind the whole family? What's going on here? No, I mean, I've introduced my team to all of my colleagues, and it was a thank you, and I guess it was David's turn to human, they sent this out to recognize that for him. What is your financial advisor do? Will you sit and give them a really nice introduction? Oh, I haven't. Come to my office. I'll show you my hallowed wall of thank you notes. Yeah, here, every thank you note I've ever gotten, I put up here because it means so much to me. I think it's an electronic signature, but at least they sent it. What do you do to be distinctively different than your competition? What are you doing to drive the conversations that go on behind the curtain out there in your community? You have a chance, if you scale your business properly, segment qualitatively and quantitatively, to create not only a fully engaged, wrapped up, locked down wealth management structure around your clients, but a service structure that resonates on a profound level with your clients. That's how you combat all the competition that's coming at us, not the least of which are fairly sophisticated algorithms that are going to simply get better and better and better and better over the next few years. It's that personal relationship, it's that broader context, it's the ability to sit down with a client and say, not only am I going to help you create a strategy to get you where you need to go, but I'm going to help keep you buckled in by providing you context, perspective, insights, and in some cases, yes, counseling to make sure you stay the course. That's what our team does for our best clients. That is something an algorithm is incapable of doing. So you better start building it now, because those algorithms build themselves if you haven't noticed. And those things are going to move really quickly and start chipping away if all we do is pure investment advice and the traditional servicing model. So that's what I'm trying to inspire you to begin moving more aggressively towards. But that personalized structure, and the irony is, the concept in a nutshell is fair but not equal. Fair but not equal. You need to treat all of your clients fair but not equal. If the airline industry can figure this out, we should figure it out. I'm executive platinum on American. They better put me at the front of that line. Okay? I better get upgrades to first class a lot. Because without me, there is no American Airlines. And the client is looking at you the same way. I'm your platinum client. I pay the freight. Is my experience profoundly different and better than what the average person gets? And I, again, allow you to play editor. I give you all of the things you might consider doing, broken out by category: communication structure, educational outlet, recognition, and experience. Platinum, gold, and silver. And then I give you a blank page right next to it. You can either port over what you want, or you can port over some of it and write your own. This is your starting point. By the way, all of these tools, and you're going to want to write this down, this is very important. All these tools exist in our iPad app. You go into the iPad App Store, type in CEO Advisor Institute. It's a free download. And it gives you, right now, 5 distinct sleeves of content. And all these that you've seen thus far, where you have all my videos that go into this in depth, all these tools that are active cell tools, they're not passive PDFs. So they allow you to begin to build out whatever elements in your practice you want to build out, and it saves it. So it's a wonderful tool, kind of self-contained. The other thing, and the primary reason I went to Oppenheimer, is I've been on your side of the business 25 years. I've only been over at Oppenheimer's for 5. I've dealt with the wholesaling community for the bulk of my career, either as a financial advisor, a complex director, or as a senior executive. So I get that industry from the user's perspective. And I've said for years that I don't want to see another mountain chart, so help me God. Okay? I do not need a human being schlepping through my office with mountain charts on white papers. Thank you very much. But what I do need is I need really nuanced, insightful help in my greatest challenge, which is running these complex organisms that we call teams and practices. You help me with that, I will be a path to your door. And I'll find a place for your better funds that makes sense for my clients. So that's the reciprocal agreement structure that I have positioned. I talked to the top 7 fund companies when I left Morgan Stanley. And 6 out of the 7 looked at me like I was insane. But you're gonna take our salespeople and turn them into business consultants on White Planet. Oppenheimer got it. They're like, that's the next evolution. We have to go through that. And so our structure, and this is critical, we've got the technology, but most importantly, we've got the human capital. All of our former wholesalers, now consultants, have been through 5.5 years with me, which is more than a lifetime for most people, to learn this content on a nuanced level. I've also been allowed to hire coaches internally, and these are many of my former colleagues from the Smith-Barney space, and I will put our coaching structure and team up against anything in the marketplace today. These are not your typical little coaches out there that have failed FAs. These are people that come from very senior positions, who are successful on multiple levels within our industry. So we have a 2-tiered structure where, depending on your level of complexity, you'll work either jointly with one of our coaches and a consultant or a consultant. So you need to, if that's something you have an interest in, make sure you give me one of your business cards before you leave. Because that human capital combined with the technological structure around the content can really help you take your business wherever you want to take it in whatever sequencing you think is appropriate for you. So that's kind of what's going on there. So